You're listening to an audiobook of the novel Hidden in the Sun by Audrey Marie Inman. Chapter 5.
Upon first glance, the school looked just like another skyscraper. I mean, it was literally in the middle of the city. Its reflexive glass walls revealed nothing of what was behind it, darkly tinted, ominous, mysterious. The school name stood simply but proudly at the very top. New Haven Academy. This would be my new home for the next 3 years, and already I was wanting to turn around. Dangerous. Vampires are dangerous. Yet, here I'm about to not only invade the very center of their school, I'm going to challenge their very beliefs. If that's not signing my own death warrant, then I'm not sure exactly what is. Do it for Dad. All for Dad. I took a deep breath and let it out in a heavy sigh, the weather just cold enough to make it visible. Let's do this, I mumbled, walking up the dark green marble steps and pausing at the intercom.
Yes?
A high-pitched, bored tone came through the box in the wall. I'm Evelyn Woolacott, the new.
Oh, yes, of course. Come in.
She cut me off quickly and the door suddenly rushed open. I had just stepped inside when a short, pixie-like woman ran up to me with a large smile, her brown eyes gleaming. Was she nervous?
Here, let me take that,
she said, pulling my bag from my hand with relative ease. She was a vampire. I can carry my bag. It's no trouble.
Oh, no. Class A and B students never do anything like that,
she said with wide doe eyes as she rushed over to the desk located in the center of the room. What? Carry my own stuff? I asked humorously with wide eyes as she picked up a packet, placing it between her perfect white teeth, and jogged over to the elevator, tapping the button with her toes. The scene was rather comical, and I couldn't help but laugh a little. Shaking my head, I walked across the slick, shadowy floor and pulled the packet from her mouth. Look, I know most of the kids here are pompous, spoiled brats, but I was raised in Georgia until I was 9. I promise you that it will not harm me to help someone who is helping me, I said, pulling one of my bags from her shoulder so she wouldn't have to carry them all. She stared at me for a moment, her wide eyes and short cropped hair making her look childish, but in a more naive way. She was very beautiful. All vampires were. Her eyes softened and she nodded.
Okay,
she said and stepped into the elevator as the doors opened.
I'm Mary, by the way, Class D student,
she said quietly, staring at her feet as if she were embarrassed. I pursed my lips. What does that stuff even mean? Class D or whatever? I asked, and again her wide eyes met mine. God, why did she have to remind me so much of Lena?
It's like a rank of importance here, aside from the houses each student is assigned to. Class D are basically non-influentials like scholarship students, or half vampires like me.
She paused as if waiting for a reaction, but I gave her none, so she cleared her throat and continued.
Class C are average vampires. They scored well enough to get into the school and had enough to afford it. Partial scholarship students are in this class as well. Class B students, you, are among the more influential here. They have a strong sway over the other students here. They consist of the wealthier students and above average among the vampire and human community. Usually only third-year humans and half vampires have the opportunity to be reclassed to a Class B, but…
She trailed off, sending me a sideways curious glance, and quickly continued.
Class A students only consist of purebloods and royalty. They are the most influential people in this school, and the rest of the world as well. They are the reason our school is held in such a prestigious regard, but everyone knows the true pull comes from the Snow family. Their support and donations have made this school bloom,
she said, smiling at the elevator buttons almost proudly. The Snow family? I blurted out, my hand absently, reaching up to my left shoulder.
I know. No. I was shocked too when I found out. They are the strongest royal pureblood family. You'd think they would prefer tutors or something.
She trailed with a shrug. They? How many school-age vampires can they possibly have attending here? As if reading my mind, Mary turned to me.
Their eldest and next in line for the throne son, Jameson, supposedly insisted on coming here. I have only had the opportunity to talk to him a handful of times, so I could hardly tell you his exact intentions. But boy, am I glad that he did. He's so dreamy.
She ended with a soft, dazed sigh, to which I laughed. She glanced at me slightly embarrassed as the doors opened, to which she wasted no time rushing out of.
His other siblings, Annabelle and Winston, also attend. They are much more approachable and friendly than Jameson, though, but it only makes Jameson that much more enticing.
She finished with a small smirk. I simply shook my head as she led me down a large, intricate, and dark hallway. The whole school seemed to have that theme. How cliché. We passed several large, thick wooden doors, the kind you would expect to see in a palace. Some slightly more plain than others, each holding its own unique design. At the very end we stopped, and she turned to the door on the right, holding no design at all.
Each door is enchanted.
Mary mumbled as she searched her pockets.
The longer you stay here, the more the door will mold to your personality. Where is this dang key?
She sighed in frustration before opening a folder and checking there. Enchanted, I mumbled lightly, letting my fingers run over the smooth surface of the door before laying it flat on the surprisingly warm wood. It had this strange drumming, as if it were alive, barely noticeable if you weren't actually feeling for it.
Yeah, by the elders or something? Yours will be blank for a week or two, but don't worry, that's...
She was cut off by a sudden crackling noise coming from the door, causing us both to jump back.
Normal,
she finished in a whisper with her head cocked to the side. Where the door had been a smooth, deep cherry, semi-glossy surface, it now held a simple crescent moon with a tangle of vines beneath it and roses climbing elegantly up it. Is that normal too? I asked, staring unblinking at the door.
No. How exactly did you do that?
She fidgeted, her voice a few octaves higher than usual. I frowned, looking her face over for any sign she were lying, but her face remained perfectly innocent. I thought you did it, I mumbled, turning my attention back to the design that decorated my door. It was surprisingly beautiful.
I'm sure it's fine,
she said too quickly, pulling a key from the little pocket on her navy blue cardigan. She only hesitated for a second before unlocking the door and rushing in, leaving me baffled in the hall, staring in. She set my stuff by the door and turned expectantly.
Well?
She asked, with one brow higher than the other.
What are you waiting for? Come in.
She ushered. My eyes widened as I gave the door a once-over. No one has ever died from an enchanted door. Right, I said quickly. She laughed suddenly and rolled her eyes.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. It's a door, not the plague,
she said through her giggles, picking up my stuff and disappearing further into the room. With a sigh, I cautiously tiptoed past the entrance, turning only to close it as quickly as possible. Maybe I was overreacting a little, but hey, we live in a world where vampires and magic coexist. It's really not that far off.
Okay, so this is your room. Most students share a room, but since all other female humans are paired, you have a room to yourself, and that will probably remain like that as long as you do well here. Based on first impression, you've got nothing to worry about,
she said with a huge smile, and suddenly stood from the sitting position she had been in on my bed.
Unfortunately, I do have to get back to work, so I'll leave you here to unpack. You can explore if you're feeling brave later. Otherwise, I'll swing by later and show you around after dinner,
she said, and gave a small wave suddenly appearing in front of the door. I may never get used to a vampire's speed. Hey, Mary, I called, stopping her, and she peered over her slender shoulder.
Yes?
Her eyes were round and doughy, tugging at my heartstrings again. I bet Lena would have looked a lot like her when she got older. Now I'll never know. I quickly cleared my throat and smiled back the tears, trying to form. I'm just really glad I met you, I said, and her eyes softened. She smiled a small, warm smile before leaving me alone to adjust.